Okay, everyone. So welcome. You are at the annual membership meeting of the Upper West Side Coalition of Block Associations and Community Groups. It is our 2024 annual meeting. Welcome to all of you who are joining us here live at the meeting, and there will be those who the recording will be shared with, and they will able to see what has been discussed. I am confident that in the near future, we're going to do something that many of you maybe have never done before. Actually get together in person. That's when people look at each other, they shake hands, they often share a cup of coffee, they connect to each other. I will look forward to that day. But the digital communication is powerful, and I'm glad to see you all, even if you're on the screen and it's like Hollywood Squares. But it's good to be gathering. We have only a tiny amount of formality. I'm really anti-formality. This is just like a big community support group, okay? So we want to keep it informal, but there's a few little things that we do that are required for us under bylaws and rules on appropriate behavior. My name is Steve Anderson. I serve as the president this year of the coalition. I have for many years led the West 81st Street Block Association between Central Park West and Columbus Avenue. Many of our directors are here or will be here. And when we do a sort of roll call, we'll talk about, make sure everyone knows who everyone is. In a few minutes, our special guest, the Manhattan Borough President, Mark Levine, is going to join us. I've asked him to take 5 minutes and give us his view of the world as we see it from the Upper West Side, what he thinks, and then to take some questions and discussions with us. And he said he'd hang around for 15 minutes or so more after that. By way of a general update, block associations and neighborhood associations are more recognized today, playing an increased role and collaborating with other groups, government, elected officials, and you and this coalition are responsible for this change. We have established block associations once again in our community, which has a long history of activist behavior by community groups. But obviously, some things happened in the last several years that changed a little bit. So we are reinvigorating. We started out as a couple of block association leaders having casual conversations, and now we've been joined so many of the leading nonprofit organizations that work within our community and serve our community. We're almost 30 organizations now, and there's between 6 and 12 more that are talking with us, and many people are interested in either forming, resurrecting block and neighborhood associations, or just learning more about the role of community groups and getting engaged. And that is, to a large extent, because of the efforts of so many people in the last few years through this group. Obviously, we all care very much about almost everything. And we want to share our views, especially with those who are entrusted with making the decisions, elected officials and government officials. But we are having casual conversations. We are interested in engaging more people. We're not pushing an agenda. We're not pushing an elected official. We're not pushing a particular legislation, but we want transparency. We want information, and we want to hear about all the issues that people care about. Hundreds of households tune in to the forums that we present on public policy issues. And they stay up, and the links are live, and they keep watching them after. I mean, when the sanitation commissioner came on, there were 500 households who were tuned on. When the 3 commanding officers first time came on about public safety, there were over 550 households that ended up doing. So people are responding to us. So what do we care about? All issues. What don't we care about? E-bikes, shelters, cannabis, affordable housing, everything public safety, our parks, the boat basin, and so much more. I do want to introduce you to the newish. He's got 2 editions under his belt. Okay, Elliot Ledley is now the editor of our newsletter. He's got two of his issues on, and he's comes from 105th Street. We're hooking him up with a couple of block and neighborhood associations, but he's done a great job. And I just wanted to recognize that he stepped up to do something that's a real job. Ellen from the West 80s Neighborhood Association has been editing and helping, not just the last couple of issues, but the last year or two, for which we are most appreciative. But we wanted to recognize Elliot and say thank you to Elliot, because this is an important job and important for us. There's about 500 subscribers, 500 households that are subscribed. These are some of the most engaged people in our community who want to know everything they can about what's going on. We've got about 500 people following our tweets on X, which I call Twix, so I don't have to say formerly known as Twitter. Okay, but that's my own issue. The matter of communicating is at the heart of what we're doing, and we are sharing information that nonprofits have been sharing for a long time to their constituencies, and now we are providing another opportunity for more people to hear about what is going on with so many organizations and what they're offering. And for block associations and our core group of neighborhood community people, it's a way to reach more people and let some of the people who have kids studying at Bloomingdale School of Music, okay, find out maybe they too would like to, or seniors who need some help or want to know about senior centers. So we are sharing information, and information is powerful, and that's what we're trying to harness. So I think I've blathered on too much. We are supposed to have an official election of directors, and we're also expecting the borough president to come. So I think that it's probably a good time to turn to Donald Press. He is my neighbor on 81st Street from Columbus Avenue. He goes west 2 blocks to Broadway. When I reached out in 2020 during the pandemic, I reached to Donald and to Dale Brown on 79th Street and said, what do you think? What should we do? And they responded. And Donald's been helping us get this organization underway from the beginning. He's been our nominations person, our bylaws person, and now he has some official formalities that are required for us to do the business that is required at hand. How was that, Donald, for an introduction to you, my friend?
Good. Thanks, Steve. Am I coming across? Good. One of the key purposes of the annual general meeting is, of course, to induct the new board of directors for the coming year. We have 9 candidates for the directors of the board. They are Steve Anderson, who represents the Theodore Roosevelt Park Neighborhood Association, Dale Brown, who represents the West 79th Street Block Association, Neil Burson, representing the West 90s Neighborhood Association. Neil, unfortunately, can't be with us tonight. His brother died suddenly, and we wish him, send our condolences and wish him a long life. Aaron Bellinger, representing the West 83rd Block Association. Gary Pelton, representing West 70th Street Block Neighborhood Association. John Le Breton, representing the West Side Campaign Against Hunger. Mark Jennings, representing Project Find. Laura Colin Klein, representing the Road. And Erica Atkins, representing the Bloomingdale School of Music. Of the 26 members that were eligible to vote, we had 21 participate and who voted. All the candidates were approved by majority vote via this secret ballot. However, we are required to approve the candidates by majority vote during the annual general meeting itself. So I hereby propose the following slate. Again, Steve Anderson, Dale Brown, Neil Burson, Aaron Berlinger, Gary Pelton, John Le Breton, Mark Jennings, Laura Colin Klein, and Erica Atkins. Steve, will you second the motion?
Seconded.
Good. Will everyone please raise a hand if voting aye for that slate? Thanks very much. I have the proxies for the members that aren't here as well, which I will vote accordingly. And the slate is essentially approved. The following step would be that Steve, as the outgoing president, will then call a meeting of the 9 new board members, at which they will vote amongst themselves for the key slots of president, treasurer, and secretary, and any other position that they feel appropriate. And with that, essentially, the nominations for the 2024 board is completed. Thanks,
Donald,
Steve.
thank you very much for handling it. It's a little bit of formality, and I hate formality, just a bunch of neighbors getting together, but it was necessary to do that. I appreciate that. The board will meet in a couple of weeks. It's all been arranged to gather, and we'll report back. So thanks again, Donald. Thanks to everyone who participated, and especially thanks to those who step up and say, I will play a role of civic engagement on behalf of my community. And it's a good mix of not only citizens who are block by block doing what they feel is the next right thing with block and neighborhood association, but it's also representatives from some of the most important organizations in our community who serve thousands of us in various ways, culturally, housing, advocacy, senior citizens, healthcare, and so many other ways. And it has enriched our organization, having all of you join with us with block and neighborhood associations in support of our community. And I promise not to babble on too much more. I do want to welcome someone who is shockingly on time, which is going to spoil a bad reputation for not only him and for other elected officials.
Don't hold it against me, Steve.
I promise not to. It is Manhattan Borough President Mark Levine, who is no stranger to us. He has joined us before, but it was an annual meeting. And Mark, we have representatives from our different entities. There's almost 30 organizations. Many of them are at other meetings, and we will make this on YouTube available for them to watch. So thank you for joining us. And that looks like almost a real background.
Believe it or not, it is. I'm still in the office.
It looks like almost a real background. And take a few minutes, please, and share with us your thoughts today.
Well, absolutely. It's great to see all of you. I just love that you've got leaders from different parts of the neighborhood and different great social service nonprofits who've come together united like this. You're filling a real need on the West Side. So thanks to all of you for stepping up, and Steve for leading and for inviting me again. I think I know all of you, but I think all of you will know that I have the honor of being your Manhattan Borough President. And I mostly want to have a conversation and not just lecture at you. I'm really happy to talk about things I know that are on your minds, whether it is our fight against illegal cannabis stores, some of the challenges around e-bikes, my personal effort to rein in the epidemic of scaffolding, I'm sure many of you care about, and particularly a fight I've been engaged in on fixing our broken mental health system. And I'll try in about 5 minutes just to touch on these, but then we'll do a conversation. So, you know, we've got these overlapping human tragedies in the street of homelessness, of a raging fentanyl epidemic, which is now claiming the lives of one New Yorker every 4 hours. We have a drug fatality, an overdose every 4 hours in New York City, and 90% of that is opioids, really fentanyl. And then there's the broken mental health system that we all know about because we see fellow New Yorkers in distress in the street, in the subway, in the park, who display signs of severe untreated mental illness. And like a lot of you, I've asked myself, why is our city failing to get these individuals the treatment that they need and the residential facilities that they need, if appropriate? And so I spent much of 2023 visiting the kinds of programs that should be offering solutions. I went to hospital ERs. I went to the state psychiatric hospital on Randall's Island, which, you know, even if you didn't know, that the function it serves, it's visible from the Triborough Bridge. It's a big 100-year-old building, very boxy. Actually, it's a campus of buildings. I was able to visit that and also walked along with street outreach teams, reaching out to people on the street. And what I saw again and again and again is there are good programs with really dedicated staff that do achieve results, but they're all just too small relative to the scale of the problem. And nowhere is that more dramatic than in the hospitals. We have really lost over 500 inpatient hospital beds in Manhattan, providing psychiatric care in this borough over the last 15 years or so. It's really all contracted to the public hospitals and specifically to Bellevue Hospital. And there is a long-term, what they call an extended care unit for psychiatric patients at Bellevue Hospital. Does anyone know how many beds that unit? The only one. I could call on you, but I'll make it easy on you. The answer is 19. That's it. And so it is very hard to get admitted for psychiatric care long-term at Bellevue. And if you are fortunate enough to be admitted, you could get pushed out before you're really stable. And there's a similar story in every piece of the mental health system. So I've put out a call to expand capacity, and specifically at Bellevue and the public hospitals. It shouldn't be 19 beds. I talked to the head of the public hospitals. It should be 300. Talked about expanding capacity on Randall's Island, which we can talk more about. But just as an aside, that complex in the 1970s, it was a rough time for state mental institutions. In fact, it was a terrible time. We don't want to go back to that. But at that time, they had 3,000 patients there. For comparison, today they have 400. And if you go over the Tri-Bowl Bridge at night, you'll notice some of the buildings are just dark. And we have a very sensible plan to expand capacity there. Happy to talk more on the mental health stuff and opioid and homelessness, et cetera, if you'd like. But I just want to quickly touch on some of the other stuff I mentioned. I've been pretty alarmed at the amount of scaffolding, or we call them technically sidewalk sheds, that are on the street in Manhattan. We've got over 4,000 on the street in Manhattan. And the origin of this program is the best of intentions. We want to protect pedestrians from the pieces of falling facades. Of course, that's got to be our top priority. We want to protect pedestrians. But it's an example of a program that's run amok. We now have hundreds of sidewalk sheds that have been on the street for more than 5 years, some more than 10 years, some more than 15 years. And what's happening there? Often it is a building owner who does not want to or is not able to repair the facade and just finds it easier to continue to rent the shed. But there are myriad other problems. I suspect if some of you are co-op owners, you're familiar with Local Law 11. And Melissa's way ahead of me. It's got a very rigid 5-year cycle right now that treats every building the same, whether it is a brand new glass and steel building or a 120-year-old terracotta brownstone. And what's very relevant on the West Side is it doesn't make any provision for buildings which do a major renovation. So I know this happens on the West Side, but you could be in year 3 or 4 of the cycle before you finish a major multi-million-dollar renovation, because by the time you deal with the permits and you get the bids and the work is done and all that. And then it's already time to start the whole Local Law 11 process again. And it seems to me that there should be a provision for those cases to extend the period. And there's more to our plan on this. New York does not allow drones for inspection. Other cities do. And so sometimes you have to hang a worker off the side of the building, which is more expensive and also risky, by the way. And you can use a drone to inspect the facade. It's quick, it's easy. Architects like it because you can document the same place in the facade year to year with the same image. Very helpful for tracking weathering and wear and tear, et cetera. So happy to talk more about this, but I know the Upper West Side has got a lot of scaffolding on the street, especially on West End Avenue. And we want to rein that in for sure. A little bit of good news on the cannabis front. We have, by the best estimate I have, at least 600 illegal pot stores just in Manhattan. It's an astounding number. The number may even be higher, but it is a problem for many, many reasons. Those are illegal, despite the signage. They are selling to minors in many cases. They are evading taxes, and they're cheating a system that was designed to bring legalized dispensaries online. And we do have a handful in Manhattan, but they're struggling amidst this competition. By the way, they're also magnets for robberies because they tend to deal in cash. Turns out that when the state amended the laws to decriminalize marijuana, they also took away the tools the city had to just padlock them. And so it's been this really difficult battle in getting them closed. But good news, the state legislature gave the city some new tools. And we actually now can padlock these stores if an investigation shows even a single offense. And this has already been done. 50 stores have already been padlocked. So it's early, really, we're in the first week. And we need to first watch what happens to those 50 stores and make sure they don't reopen. And second, as I mentioned, we have 600. So, but I'm optimistic that we have tools we didn't have. And finally, I'm going to mention e-bikes, and then we'll open it up. We need more enforcement, and we need more tools to enforce, without a doubt. Every moving vehicle on the roads got to obey the rules of the road, whether you're in a car, a bus, a truck, an e-bike, anything. And too often that's not happening. And we have proposed a system to require licensing for the kind of heavier e-bikes, which are very commonly used by delivery workers. We think that that's functionally the same as a moped. By the way, we got a problem with mopeds too. If you see a moped on the street with no license plate, you don't have to ask. That's illegal. There's no gray zone there. And PD, I have to give some credit, has picked up the seizure of mopeds. And look, we have a problem with unlicensed cars too, by the way. Increasingly cars with no plates, defaced plates, fraudulent plates, obscured plates. And you know, that's a major safety problem as well. And PD has actually, I spoke to the chief, to one of the chiefs a couple of days ago, who said in the last 2 years they've impounded 50,000 vehicles for lack of plates, including mopeds and cars. So I don't know how that plays out on Manhattan or the West Side on mopeds versus cars, but it's progress. But getting back to the bikes, we do need some system in place to have accountability. You know, if your Uber driver drives recklessly, then there's a system for kicking them off the platform, right? And there's kind of built-in accountability there. And if someone's delivering for Uber Eats and is reckless, there should be an accountability system, some sort of registration system or something, so that those folks can't put people at risk. So anyway, I'm going to pause there and open it up for your questions and thoughts.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks. No, it's good. It's good that you went through those things to spark our attention. Let me just jump in here and say this. The experience with what has happened with cannabis has undermined confidence in government. Has undermined the recognition that we need government's help, and the question of whether government is capable of actually. So the e-bike issue, when I hear that we're going to set up a system in Albany and we're going to have a system to deal with this, because New York City doesn't have a motor vehicle bureau, obviously, and all that. It has been said now by a number of people, well, wait a second, they're going to do such a good job like they did with cannabis. I mean, we had a forum here to talk about how it's going to be grown, how all these issues were going to be, there'd been a study, prominent individuals, and the whole thing was a damn mess, okay, and has unnerved people. So the e-bike issue, okay, hearing that Albany is going to take care of it, a number of people are. Now, I know you're a believer in the role of government. You got the gig because you believe in the purpose of this, and we're all engaged in this civic disclosure, but you can appreciate the lack of confidence in the ability of government to perform its essential job. So that's
I share similar dismay at what's happened on the cannabis rollout. I mean, I would add, although the consequences may be less severe, I would certainly add scaffolding to the signs of government dysfunction. But by the way, Steve, if you'll permit me, I forgot to introduce a brand new member of our wonderful Manhattan Borough President's Office team, Suwaiba Shabazz, who's here. Maybe she'll wave or say hi in a minute. She is our brand new Community 7 liaison, and she's wonderful. So you'll enjoy getting to know her.
We have already made contact we will have a dozen emails to her within the week.
Okay.
Issues to which
Okay,
we want
thank
you to
you.
focus on Monday. Okay, so
Okay, great. Thank you. But look, as I mentioned, the problem with requiring registration for any vehicle is that people could just not put plates on or not put a registration number on. And that's not hypothetical. It's happening with cars right now. I mean, I'm alarmed as I walk down streets and just see how many cars have no plates, fake plates, as I said, obscured, defaced. And you know, that's just a terrible breakdown of law and order. And so we have cause for concern, but we can do nothing but advocate for government to be the best it can be. We want the city to work. We want it to be safe for everybody. We want it to be fair and just. And we can do that when government's at its best. And as you said, Steve, that I ran for this job to achieve that dream.
okay, who else has a question or a comment? And don't be too gentle. He's our guest and we treat him respectfully, but we got to go strong here when we have this opportunity with one of the key leaders in our city. Anyone? Go ahead, Melissa. You're muted. Unmute. You got to unmute and then you'll be good.
I'm on my iPhone too in Central Park. So running out of battery. So that's why I'm asking a question first. Great to see you, Mark. And thanks for all
Likewise, Melissa.
all you're doing is really, really amazing. And your investigative work on the mental health crisis is very thorough and that's what's needed. You know, not just the sound bites that are out there. So we appreciate that. So my question, my concern, in obviously the need for housing, which I think we would all agree, affordable housing. I am concerned about the lifting of the FAR, floor area ratio caps, in certain neighborhoods, because you know we can all see what happens when truly out of scale development goes into neighborhoods. There it doesn't fit. It's an aesthetic mess. I can point to that. More, I don't know if you could see, but you know, that's just
I know.
okay. Well, billionaire row, basically, you know, just and we've had that issue up in the hundreds on Broadway before we changed the zoning. So could you talk about that?
Sure.
You know, because there is a difference between the Upper West Side. All of us are members of the Upper West Side versus say Midtown or Greenwich Village or, you know, Flatiron. You know, every neighborhood has its character, and I would really hate to have the Upper West Side look like the super talls.
Mark, when you respond, can you explain a little bit for some people who may not
how it works and what that is,
and
absolutely.
Also how the City of Yes proposal encompasses this as many of the other issues?
I will. Thank you, Steve. And Melissa, appreciate being in many great fights shoulder to shoulder with you, including helicopter noise. But let me just, if you'll permit me a little bit of background for those who aren't as well informed as Melissa. In 1961, the last time the city had a complete 5-borough rezoning of a comprehensive scale, there was real concern that people would no longer want to live in urban areas and that we'd end up having a glut of apartments. And the city wanted to steer development to offices. And so they capped the size only of residential buildings. They did not put a cap on the size of commercial buildings. That was 1961. And much of our beloved Upper West Side predates 1961. And much of the most beloved iconic buildings were immediately would have become illegal to build. Like certainly most of the beloved buildings along Central Park West are considered too big and illegal to build at that scale now or since 1961. The way scale is measured is by floor area ratio. So the limit is 12. If you fill out the lot, 12 floors. And you know those buildings we love on the Upper West Side are more than 12. A ratio of more than 12. Some of them are 15 or whatever higher. They would be illegal to build, but you know, they're good looking buildings. And we have some big policy priorities right now in the city where we were bumping up against that. We need to convert vacant midtown office buildings, especially the old ones. Think of these built, you know, in the 1970s. And they're big. You know, some of them have a floor area ratio of 24 or 30. And so under this 1961 rule, we could convert them to housing, but you can only use half the building for housing. The rest, you got to leave empty. Also new construction, there's a large vacant lot right across from the Javits Center on, I guess that's 11th Avenue, right across the entrance, that the state's there's gonna be a 60-story building there. Because if the cap had been in effect, only half the building would be housing. The rest would have to be who knows what, I don't know, a hotel or something, right? So there are real challenges in this cap on only one kind of building. What was done in Albany in the budget was that the cap was lifted, but not in historic districts, which covers about 30% of Manhattan, and well over that of the Upper West Side is in a historic district. So this doesn't apply there. But at any rate, even in Midtown Manhattan, nothing changes unless and until there is a rezoning. And at such time as there were a rezoning, unlike every time since 1961, they would have the option of adding more scale. So nothing, well, first off, nothing in the West Village is going to change because of the historic district, but even if hypothetically that weren't true, nothing would change because zoning is the same as it's always been. So I think this is going to be a very important tool in Midtown and a few other sites. I mentioned one across from Javits. But I think it's actually hard to see the property where this would impact right now on any of the historic Upper West Side. One last thing, you pointed to the needles on Billionaire Row, which are not doing virtually anything to solve the housing crisis for New York City. It's a tiny number of units, not accessible to regular New Yorkers. Those are a result of the 12 FAR cap. That is people exploiting this loophole. So what they do is they buy up a whole series of properties, and whatever floor area they have, because they can't do big buildings like what you see on Central Park West, they put it all together in a sliver and they go to the moon. And that was under the 12 FAR cap. So we got those because of the cap, as opposed to getting wider and I would hope probably more to scale buildings. So I just wanted to clarify that. Anyway, Melissa, I don't know if your battery died or if you're still on, but hope that was helpful, and to everyone else as well.
Mark, one of the issues that people are talking about a great deal on the Upper West Side is whether the Upper West Side and perhaps the Upper East Side are about to become the largest outdoor parking lots in New York City as a result of congestion pricing and people coming to where there is transportation options such as major subway lines, express stops, and looking for parking. We're not against people from Westchester and New Jersey and Long Island coming, but there's no system to accommodate that. And forget about residential parking permits, which is another separate issue. But there doesn't seem to be, again, a master plan that affects those who live here and the quality of life.
Yes, I am concerned about this. I'm actually very focused on residential parking permits, which if it's okay, I'll talk about. Look, there are big upsides for the West Side in congestion pricing. I think the potential inundation of suburban commuters dumping their cars on residential streets is a concern, and one I've been voicing for years. But the West Side is going to get better transit, and we have congestion south of 60th Street right now that is so bad. It's walking speed approximately going Midtown during peak hours. It's slowing ambulance response time. It's slowing fire and police response time to dangerous levels. I mean, their fire department runs in the West 30s that can go 45 minutes just to go 6 or 7 blocks. It's not safe. But for years, we have had all up and down the West Side, up to the tip of Manhattan, people coming from areas outside of the city. I think probably mostly Jersey and Westchester, maybe Connecticut. And they're dumping their cars on local streets, not paying for parking. You see it in the morning, depending on the street at 7 a.m., you see cars lined up with a lot of out-of-state plates. You know what they're doing. And it's going to happen even more so once congestion pricing starts on June 30th. To me, residential parking permits is potentially a great solution, which, by the way, most other big cities in America have, and most other cities in New York State have. But the state has not authorized it for us, for New York City. But Albany has it, Buffalo has it, Utica has it. I can go through, a long list. I don't think it's fair that New York doesn't. And, it doesn't mean that everyone has a personal parking spot with their name on it, but it means that you avoid this phenomena of cars being dumped on the street. Now, there is a charge for these permits. And so you also generate some revenue, which can be used to invest in the neighborhood. I would argue that whatever revenue you generate on a given block or a given neighborhood should go right back into that same area. I've had a bill on this in the city council, my gosh, for at least 6 or 7 years. And there's a great champion right now in Councilmember Carmen De La Rosa from Washington Heights and Inwood, where, as I mentioned, this is a big problem because of the bridge. So I think we have a growing coalition. I'm disappointed that we haven't moved fast enough, but I'm still fighting for this.
Thanks, Mark. Who else has a comment or a question? I know that Mark's going to leave in a little bit. So if you got one, now is the moment. All right, Mark, we promised to get back to you with Monday with our dozen must-do issues through
Great.
the entire staff. We thank you for being here. And hopefully you can.
Thank you, West Siders. It was fun to chat. Thank you for leading and for welcoming here tonight. Have a great rest of the meeting.
Okay,
Bye-bye
thanks,
now.
Mark. Thank you very much.
Bye.
So I see Erica Atkins has made it. She's on vacation, I think. She's not supposed to say that or something. But it's good to have you here. Thank you for joining, even though I know you're far away somewhere. I don't know where.
I'm actually I'm back. I'm back from vacation. But
Oh, you're back.
I was yes. I wasn't able
Okay.
to come in on time today, but I
Good.
am back.
Good. We're glad to have you here. I do want to acknowledge that Gary Pelton, our treasurer, is here. The deputy treasurer, Aaron Berlinger, is here, and Danielle Tannen, who is our secretary, and is escaping from the board after one very dynamic year. And we maybe get her back after, give her a little break. But I just want to acknowledge her efforts. Gary tells me everybody is current in their dues. Now, that's very exciting. It's only $50 a year, okay? And you're going to get another bill very soon for the next 12 months of also for $50. And there have been some contributions from a few organizations, and that is very much appreciated because what we've done is we've upgraded the website. We've been able to distribute more materials, a little bit of social media, because we're all about communicating. And that's a big part of it. So the newest members are the West 95th Street Block Association, our neighbors on West 85th Street from Broadway to Amsterdam are here. The Broadway Mall Association, I think, is doing something. If you read our newsletter, you'll see that they're redoing much of the Broadway Mall gardening project in stages. It seems like a massive project, but pretty interesting, and it has an impact on our community. And the New York Historical Society has also joined our group. So that is a good report. So who's got something to share with our community before we say goodnight and let everyone carry on with their life? Come on, you got a couple of folks. Share. Tell us a little bit of something you're doing or you want people to know about. Don't make me call you by name. I have no pride. Okay, Erica, what are you doing? What are you doing there? My son bombed out with the violin and the saxophone. You made him play the recorder, okay? He's now a grown man. It's okay. It hasn't harmed him too much. What's going on with your group these days? You've got a big series of events happening.
Yeah, we're wrapping up the school year, and through that, we have several big events coming up. The biggest one that's, open to the whole community is on Saturday, May 18th. We're doing Performathon, which is a really special event. It's a student-led fundraiser in which students fundraise for scholarships at Bloomingdale. And it's a really cool opportunity to see like students supporting other students, but it's also back-to-back-to-back concerts. There's 6 hours of concerts. So if you're wondering what Bloomingdale students, what they perform like, what they're getting into, it's a great event to come because it's just all of something our students have been working towards all year. We're gonna have ice cream in the backyard. We're gonna have lunch. It's just like a really big fun community event. And then yeah, then we have a faculty concerts. We do faculty concerts almost every other Friday night that are free to the community, where our talented faculty perform with other artists often, and those are free. That are Friday night. We have one coming up tomorrow with the head of our guitar department, Jose Mondaldo, and it's going to be really great. His parents are flying in from Puerto Rico to come, so if you're in the neighborhood, you could just stop by. Not as part of the trip for you. And then if you take a look at our website or like reach out to us, there are a lot of recitals coming up and a lot of studio recitals coming up in the coming week. And again, if you've ever been interested in Bloomingdale or someone you know might be interested in Bloomingdale, they're actually really great events to come to because our students get to show off what they've been working on, and you can kind of see what the performance of a Bloomingdale student may look like. And I think the last two big things is that we have in 3 weeks we have our jazz festival and we have our strings festival too. And so performances, workshop, artists. You can check out our website. I'll drop it in the chat, and you can see when a lot of these different events are.
Thanks, Erica. Laura, I'm going to put you on the spot. Your organization is driven by a tremendous amount of volunteerism by people who really care about the work. And do you still need, are you still after increasing the number of volunteers who participate in the outreach that Dorot does?
So we are all up. So thank you for putting me on the spot. I'm happy to be there. And I'm also happy that my colleague Kay can join because Kay's role is outreach to the community. So at Dorot, we engage about 5,000 older adults each year and an equal or greater number of volunteers ages 8 to 80 plus. Older adults in our community are defined as people 60 plus. We have a lot of people who both participate in our services and also volunteer to help out. In terms of programming for people ages 60 plus, we have a wide variety of opportunities for participating over the phone for people who are not able to get out of their homes. And we also have a wide variety of Zoom programs, and we have programs at Dorot on West 85th Street. And I guess Malika, if that's how to pronounce your first, you are our neighbor because we are located just east of Amsterdam Avenue on 85th Street. And then we also have programs for older adults in their homes. And that's where that are one-on-one, and that's where volunteers really come into the picture. Volunteers serve as friendly visitors, tech coaches, caring callers. We have volunteers who run errands and help older adults with grocery shopping, that kind of thing. And so we are always in need of more volunteers for those roles.
Thanks for accepting being on the spot so graciously. Thank you. Hey, Mark, people don't realize how big an operation you've got going on. You've got a big operation going on, and it's a little bit of a secret to some of us. Some of us, though, are reaching an age where maybe we need to be thinking about accessing some of these services. Tell us a little bit about, the Project Find World on the Upper West Side here.
Yeah, we are a little small secret organization doing what I think are great things. So we're operating several older adult centers. Our Hamilton site on 73rd Street is probably the most familiar to everyone here. I'm happy there that we actually are hosting some block associations in terms of utilizing the space in that way. We also are operating the project on West 79th Street that opened with Fairstead. And so we're involved in housing along with the older adult centers. The centers are having some exciting classes. Alvinelli is coming through to do dance classes. We have painting classes. There's watercolors this month. there. And we're going to start we do many kind of dancing. So we have Tai Chi, other things, but we're going to start a TikTok dance class if you want to learn how to be in the know for some of those at the center coming
I don't
up.
want to scare you. I don't want to scare you, Mark. Okay.
That's the whole point. That's the whole point, is to have fun and be excited and scared. So I may even take a gander at trying to do that so my kids can laugh at me. And so we're doing good work. I think even on the housing side, as we talk about, FAR came up, you know, we're for better or for worse, also part of that, because we also are selling air rights and have sold air rights to some of the developers. And there is a back end to that I would love to talk about as well, in how we're using that money. So we're renovating Hamilton, putting in new boilers, putting in new elevators, doing a lot of work from there. And we're also trying to use the money to buy land. We just signed an LOI to try to find some land on 123rd Street in that community board to try to build more affordable housing for older adults. And so we're in conversation with HPD. We just got the endorsement of the community board for our project just recently. And we're trying to use proceeds from those air rights sales to be able to buy that land, to be able to secure the housing. And that also connects to one of Mark Levine's pieces of being, there's a city-owned lot in ULURP and everything that's involved in that. That's very exciting.
So I've said this before, to remind myself and perhaps others, this is the community that at 7 o'clock many nights during the scariest times for many of us in the pandemic, we banged pots and pans out the window to signal something that was important to us and to recognize we are those people. We are those people. And we can be those people, I think, in many different ways. And much of the work that you and Goddard is deeply committed, and Wish Fish with all of the incredible housing opportunities and supportive housing that is essential. I mean, we are those people, and sometimes maybe we need to be reminded of that. And I think that's powerful, because we've stood up for those things. Anyone else? Because if not, I'll go on, and I have to be stopped and be respectful of people's time. I have issues. Okay, I'm working on it. Okay, who else has a comment? Okay, neighbors, thank you very much for being here and for all the things we're doing together to try to enhance what we know is incredible, to identify the things we know that are not, and to just support each other the best we're able. So good night, everybody.
All right, nice to meet everyone.
Thanks, Dave.